Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to helping every person out there. And I tell you from the bottom of my heart, I'm talking to you to be bigger in your life, and not only just with what you're doing, but you got to think bigger. That's where it all starts. You got to think bigger before you're going to do bigger. We want to help inspire you to be bolder, which means you are going to be getting out of your comfort zones. You're going to be doing things that you probably don't want to do, and you're going to do things that you probably don't want to do, but I promise you that you can, so you can become the best version of you. I believe that we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil, and the only way evil wins is when good people like you, your loved ones, your friends, your family, and like myself, and our incredible guest, Jon Snell, when we don't do enough. So every week we have got incredible guests. We've got topics. We want to know what you're interested in learning about. And we're going to help you in any and every way grow personally, professionally, and philanthropically, so you can become the best version of yourself. So here we are, July 15th. I want to say welcome to our incredible guest, Jon Snell. You listen, I'm going to tell you right off the bat here, I love the headshot and I love the pink. I think a man who can wear pink is a man that is confident in every way. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming. And I know we're going to hear a lot from you. But before we jump into our topic, which is your expertise, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, Jens.
You bet.
And my name is Jon Snell. I am a mortgage broker. I've been in the mortgage industry for 26 years. And I have a specialization that is in helping people going through divorce. So we'll talk about that in a
Right.
little bit. But I am originally from Michigan. Came down here as quickly as I could.
That's what I was going to say is how fast did you get down here, Jon?
As soon as my parents would let me, right?
No, did you come down with your parents or did you move
No,
after
I
after
was
her?
the first down here.
Oh,
So,
and did others follow you?
so I had my sister followed shortly after I got here. My parents followed after that when they retired.
Wonderful.
And so my whole family is down here except for my brother,
Well,
who
and
is still back
he's
in
still
Michigan.
okay. And do y'all give him a hard time and say, when are you coming down?
No. The roots are way too deep for him up there. There's no way.
Well, now, did you go to college down here or did you go to college up in
I
Michigan?
went to college at the University of Michigan.
Okay, wonderful.
And I have a bachelor's degree in architecture, believe
Wonderful.
it or not, and a master's degree in architecture, and an MBA in real estate and finance. So once I got into grad school, I sort of transitioned from the architect brain to the
Right.
finance brain.
Well, and what made that transition for you?
Well, I did work for a couple years between undergrad and grad school at an architecture firm and saw that the architects were incredibly creative and brilliant, but they weren't very good business people. And so when I went back to grad school, I had the opportunity to add an MBA concurrently with my Master of Architecture. But once I get into the business school curriculum, I found that I really had more of a passion for the real estate end of it, not the designing
Right.
end of it.
Well, one thing I think that's so important, and I talk about this all the time because I think it's so vitally important, is you do have to understand business. You do have to understand basic money. You have to realize that you got to have money to make money, and it really doesn't matter what your situation is. You've got to prepare and you've got to be proactive. So I think that there's a lot of people that have so many gifts and so many talents, and you're ready to run with them, and you got to do that. But at the same time, you need people in your life that have that gift and that talent with money to be able to help you along the path. So, don't fret if you're not one of those that's very business oriented. You've got people like Jon. You've got people that you have just a gift for that and a love for that. So, how did you get into what you're doing right now? And one of the things I think is obviously you're a mortgage lender, but you are a certified divorce professional. And, we were talking right before we started about how, there's so many people that have experienced divorce. 50% of people that get married will get divorced. And it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, but what you don't know can and does hurt you. So how did you stumble into this specialization?
So, probably 10 or 15 years ago, I had an attorney approach me. And back at that point in time, our licensing in the state of Texas was a lot different. It was a state license. Now we have a national license. But back at that time, attorneys could actually get their mortgage broker license without having to go through all the training and
I
everything.
did not know that.
The legislature carves out exemptions for people that influence, and obviously the attorneys help draft the law. So,
Right.
So they got an exemption, but
I mean, another good reason to be an attorney.
that's right.
Or to have some in your family.
So I had an attorney that reached out to me and said, John, I want to do the divorce work, the decree and the mediation, settlement, and all that, but I also want to do the refinance, which a lot of times comes with that because one party wants to keep the house and they're going to have to refinance to take the other one off the house. And he said, I want to do like a one-stop shop system, but I need somebody to sponsor me as my broker. And so I partnered up with him at that time, and that sort of got me into the world of divorce
Right.
financing. But also, I just have seen over the years so many mistakes that attorneys have made. I work with some really, really great ones, but I will see decrees that have, well, they're not errors, but strategically they could have written up the settlement so that it was more beneficial to the client.
Right.
And then I get them, and then I've got to either tell the client that their solution doesn't really work. on the
Right.
mortgage
Okay.
side.
So let's just jump right into the topic because you are talking about some stuff that I know that there are people out there that you are either going through a divorce, you have recently been through a divorce, you've gone through a divorce years in the past, or heaven forbid, you may end up in divorce later. But I know we all have friends that it's not going to be us, but there's friends of ours that are going to be going through a divorce in the future. And these are tips and nuggets. So I want to know from the very beginning, and if anybody out there has any questions, a big shout out to Cheryl Mahoney that's watching and to Jonah Jones. I want to know questions, and I want to know from you, at what point does somebody need to get in touch with somebody like you if they know they're in the divorce world?
Okay, so ideally, Jens, the sooner the better.
Okay.
If you're thinking about divorce and it's serious, that would be the best time to get in touch with me because once you enter into a relationship with the divorce attorney, the dynamic changes a lot. And what I do for a lot of my clients is we'll sit down and go over their goals and with respect to their home,
Right.
and where they're going to live afterwards. So it would be so much more beneficial if you had that little part of your plan together before you go to see the attorney,
Right.
and then you don't have to concentrate on that part after you talk to me. And I tell people all the time, here's what the plan needs to be. Maybe you keep the home, maybe you sell the home. Maybe you rent after your divorce for a little while. Maybe you are ready to jump into a purchase of a home.
Okay, so a couple things. One, that I'm loving what you're saying, and I'm just going to have to re-emphasize it because I don't know if y'all are like me, but I like it when somebody points out some important parts or points. Number one is you said, listen, come and see someone like you who knows really well the ins and outs and the pros and cons of buying or selling or renting your home after divorce prior to even solidifying your divorce attorney. Because like you said, if you go to a divorce attorney, and a divorce attorney, of course, their specialty is whatever their specialty is, that doesn't necessarily mean they know the best route with regards to how to even write your divorce decree. So that's, I think, very important. Another thing that you said that I don't think a lot of people think about, John, which is potentially even using your residence as a rental property to bring in income, and then you go live somewhere else that might be, a lot less, but you immediately have an additional revenue coming in. So, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've not even thought about that. And I just had a really good friend of mine recently that that she got divorced, and that wasn't anything that they even discussed. It was just immediately, hey, let's sell the house and let's split the profits and let's go our own separate ways. So what are some of the just the nuggets that you think people need to know specifically in this area?
Okay, there's 5 key things that you should know if you want to keep the house. The first is, I always tell people, is your why. Why do you want to keep the house? I think the sort of the knee-jerk reaction is, especially for women, is I need to keep the house. It's the nest for the children.
Right.
It's the consistency. I want to keep their lives as simple,
Yeah, normal and
consistent
stable as
possible.
possible.
That isn't necessarily a great reason to keep
Right.
the house, but it is a reason. So there's some emotional aspects to it. There's also the financial aspects, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then there's some practical aspects. How important is the school district? Are your kids in an exemplary school? Do you want to keep them really with their friends? Is the home close to your place of employment, things like that? Those are some practical considerations. So the first I always want people to know is, what is your why for
Right.
the house?
Now, do you advise people, and I'm talking to you out here, do you advise people to make this type of decision based on emotions, or do you get them out of the emotion part and say, let's make this decision in a very practical way?
Right. Well, obviously, that's
It's gonna be kind of hard now, John. But I mean, I think that for women tend to make decisions based in emotions,
Right.
especially at that time, and that's not always what's best for you.
Yeah, and that's really part of the consultant services I provide, is that, yeah, I'll acknowledge the emotions. It's definitely real. It's part of the transaction. But also, you need to look at it from a practical standpoint. If you want to keep the house, for example, do you know how much equity you have in the house? And the equity is your value less your debt.
Right.
And so if you have a lot of equity in the house, that might be a reason to keep it. If we haven't seen this in a long time, but if you had no equity in the house back in the 2008 to 2012 period where people were underwater,
Right.
you might not want to keep the house. Another consideration is, what's the condition of their property? Is it in need of deferred maintenance? Is the roof about to fall apart? Do you have structural problems? Those kind of things should definitely come into your decision-making process. I always recommend somebody has a home inspection as part of the process. Another consideration is, can you afford the home after your divorce? Because as you know, Jens, the household income is going down and expenses are maybe going up. And so it's not always an easy thing to do to maintain the home, although you may be receiving child support or spousal maintenance, that kind of thing. But can you afford to keep the home? And then finally, I always tell people, can you qualify to refinance the home to get your ex off of the loan? Because their attorney's going to insist on it to get them off of the loan. So that's, can they qualify for a mortgage? And that's kind of my specialty, is that divorce refinance.
And when you sit down with someone, because here's the thing, I think that what I'm loving about what you're saying is that you hold somebody's hand and you consult with them, because we all know that when you are going through a divorce and it's just it's an emotional time. It's a scary time. It's, people don't get married thinking that they're going to get divorced. And most people, their biggest asset is their home. And it's a scary time. So when you sit down with someone, do you also help them find a realtor? I know you're in the mortgage aspect of it, but do you also help with that aspect of it as well?
Absolutely. I have many different referral partners that I refer people to, and they're all specialists in divorce. So realtors have a special designation. There's 2 or 3 different designations that realtors maintain for divorce situations. There are financial planners that specify in divorce. Their designation is a certified divorce financial analyst. So I'm always looking to make a connection with my client to that person as well.
Right, because it's a very important decision that you need to make sure that you make as accurately as you can for your individual situation, and you don't know what you don't know. So what are some of the situations or circumstances that you believe warrants the best decision is to stay in the home, and or the best decision is to leave the home?
So again, it gets back to what's your why, number one. But one of the things we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years with the home prices going up as much as they have is that it used to be where I could advise somebody, sell your home. You can buy something a little more. We don't call it downsized anymore.
Right.
It's right-sized. So
Hey, I like that. When did that come in?
I don't know. I just
Who was the brilliant marketer that came up with that? Instead of downsize, right size.
you're right-sizing your home based on your new life.
Right.
But what has happened is that as home prices have gone up, you're selling a larger home and would like to move down to a smaller home,
And you're paying more.
and you're paying more. And so in a lot of cases, I'm going to advise the client to just stay in the house, and if that's what they truly want to do, and we just make it happen for them.
Well, no, what took you into the divorce path? I mean, was it a personal situation that you had, or a situation that you had with a client that you just said, oh gosh, this is something I really want to sink my teeth into?
Well, I think that I've had so many clients that have come to me in the past, and they were hindered from being able to buy that next house just based on their own issues.
Right.
It could be a bad settlement state clause in the decree. It could be they ruined their credit. But when coming to me, that they're not able to buy a home, and so I'm really passionate in that way, in the sense that if I can get to them early enough, even early in the divorce process, I can give them game plan coaching on how to protect themselves, especially credit. Credit has a tendency to get dinged up pretty bad during divorce, and prepare
Right.
to buy that next house.
I think that I was doing some research for the show, and this is so crazy because I believe it was 40% of the women that get divorced within their first year, they are at a poverty level. That's insane. So 40% of women. Now, when men get divorced, they're going to lose 10 to 40% of their income, but they bounce back financially so much quicker. And men, women, the women are left at a poverty level. And I'm sure like you said, you probably experienced people coming to you after the fact, and you thought, golly, if I could have helped you 6 months ago, if I would have crossed paths with you, 10 months ago, you could have helped them so much more. And I think that's really, for me personally, my whole mission in life is, it's not if we're going to need help, it's just when we're going to need help, and what is that help. It's not if we're going to fall, it's just when we're going to fall, and how quickly are we going to stay down. It's not if tragedy is going to happen, it's just when. And that's one of the reasons why I say hitch your wagon to real leaders. So if you hitch your wagon to a real leader, that real leader is going to know another real leader, and they're going to know another real leader. So they're always going to have what I call a very substantial, deep, vetted, qualified life team that they can help you. So, I mean, I think one of the biggest tips that we could give you, and I want to hear some more of your tips, but the biggest tip is, if you and when you are in a situation where you need help, go to your leaders and ask them for help before you make decisions all by yourself. And even with another person, you want to, I would think you want several opinions. So to you, what are some of your top, what are those 5 tips? I think, do we have a graphic on the 5 tips,
No,
or
we
no,
didn't
we
get the
don't?
graphic.
Okay, rats.
Dang
Okay,
it.
doggone it. But you know what we will do.
And I've already gone over that.
Okay,
a little
okay.
bit, so.
Well, what we will do, because I'm all about, if you can see something. So what we'll do for everybody is we'll get that graphic and we'll put that graphic in the comment box
Okay.
so people can see the graphics and things like that. But, for what are just some things that people should consider during this time?
So you had mentioned about the women having much more trouble financially after the divorce. I had a client once that, and I think one of the issues comes up is you may have an infusion of cash that comes in from your settlement, and you go reward yourself maybe with a new car, big vacation, something like that, and all of a sudden you're spending money that really isn't part of your budget. So one of the things I would tell people is one of the first things you need to do is get a real budget put in place that kind of restrains you from making those impulsive purchases.
You don't
that
think
type
you
of
should
thing.
have a divorce party, John?
Have a budget for your divorce party. You don't need to go to Vegas for it, right?
Oh, rats. That's what I was going to say. That's what I did. I went to Vegas. In fact, I mean, and I know this is totally off the subject, but a little bit on the subject, because one of the things I said was there could be a whole business in this, which is throwing bad to the bone divorce parties, or
There actually is.
oh, there are. Divorce parties and divorce trips, because but to your point, what you're saying is, look, before you go wild, and you just need to be smart.
Yeah.
You just need to be smart.
And this client of mine, she had already spent through, like you said, after a year, a lot of them get to a poverty level, but she'd already spent through about half of her settlement after the first year. And then she came to me and we helped her buy a house. And then after that, she wanted to buy a house for her son.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I said, no,
Right,
I'm
right.
not letting you do that.
We've got an Ask Jens question, and we got to listen and pull this up, so because I want to talk about these other people, and we've already mentioned some of them. But Jason, let's jump to that Ask Jens question. So here's the question: when getting a divorce, who are some important professionals who you should consult with? Okay, number one, obviously, is get yourself the best divorce attorney that really gels with you. Number two, you do need a financial planner that has a designation with divorce, and you have to be with people in real estate, whether they're mortgage lenders and or real estate agents and brokers. And if you find one person, I promise you they will lead you to other people. And you need that team that you can consult with. And you do need people to put you on a budget and for people to say, no, you can't do that, or yes, you can. So, John, what you just said about that budget, you don't even realize, and I know how many people don't even know how to budget. So when you're sitting down with someone, when do you start talking about, let's look at your budget? Is that appointment number one? Or are you going to be nice to them and get to that appointment number two?
Well, from my perspective, I'm looking mainly at their ability to qualify for a home. So I don't really get into the budgeting part with them. I am looking at their house payment versus what their other debts are. And we have certain underwriting guidelines. And so I'm looking to meet that. But from the standpoint of budgeting, I always recommend that they get in touch with a budget
Do you
specialist.
have some people that you refer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So with that, your first appointment would be obviously your specialty and your expertise is the house. But how quickly do you get them to the budget? I mean, listen, I know you don't want to be the bearer of bad news. You don't want to be the mean guy, but it's so important. And I guarantee you, there are people out there that your friends are giving you this information, but you know how third party, it always rules. So we're telling our friends, and some of your friends will listen to you, some won't, but I just think you almost have a responsibility, if you're the first person to someone that is in the situation, that you gear them on the right path. And I love it that you do that. So is it the first visit? I want y'all to know what to expect here. I'm big on managing people's expectations.
Typically, I'm going to give them a list of people in the first visit
Okay.
that they can talk to.
I love that.
And it depends on what their specific needs are. Some may not be in a position yet for the budget talk, but they're going to get the referral for that. Some definitely need to be connecting with a financial planner right off the bat. That's another huge part of the equation that would be nice to have a solution kind of put together before you go see the attorney also.
Right.
And those are my two key people. If there's going to be a sale of the house, then obviously I'm going to get a realtor involved that can help them with that too.
Well, I love it. And I think that each and every one of us, again, we've either gone through a divorce ourselves, and you can rate how you did, or you're going to know somebody in this situation. And how wonderful is it to know somebody, that there are really a lot of people out there that now that's their specialty is divorce. So in this area, how long have you been dealing just with, I'm not saying that that's the only thing you deal with,
Right.
but really highlighting the divorce area? How long has that been?
Well, I've been in the mortgage industry for 26 years.
Wow. Are
Probably.
you sure about that, Jon? You
Yeah.
don't look like that. You don't
Well,
look like it.
Thank you, Jen. But I have been specializing in divorce, and it's about 50% of my mortgage practice is divorce-related work. But it is my passion. I love helping people, and I'll talk about that in a second. But so probably the last 15 years, maybe something like that, I've been dedicating myself to become an expert, a go-to person. So that means there's dozens of mortgage underwriting guidelines that the average loan officer does not have a grasp of. I've become an expert at that. And also I have worked really, really hard to understand the legal process. So I know when I talk to an attorney, this is what the process is, and then I can work their process together with my process and make the whole process streamlined.
Right.
And
But there's a lot of processes.
keyword of the day, process.
There's a lot of processes that go along with divorce.
Right,
And,
right.
and a lot of times if you're not an expert in that area, you don't know how to speak that language. So to have somebody that's on your side that understands how to speak that language and who has just so much experience to sometimes help the attorneys, like you said, rewrite things or renegotiate. And it's important. It's really important. So tell us some of your most favorite stories of clients that you've worked with.
Well, I'll tell you one story that I won't say any names, but let's just say her name was Jens. No, just kidding.
I was going to say, don't give me that bad juju. I don't want any bad juju, because you know what? Today is my wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Today, thank you so much, yes, yay, 13 years today. And this is my second marriage, and it's my last, okay? So Dave, if you're watching, the only way you're going to get out of this marriage is in a pine box. I mean, that's just... You heard it here, and I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story. But long story short, yeah, I don't want that juju. So, John, let's say the female's name was Susan.
Well, let me just first talk about my wife, who I've been married to for almost 31 years.
Okay.
And she said the only way I'm getting out of this marriage,
Uh-huh.
is with a pillow over my face. so, so we joke about that.
Okay, there you go. I think I like your wife already. I need to meet her.
You would love her.
I need
She's
to
great.
meet her.
So I had a client once, Susan, let's say, and she, believe it or not, blurted everything out on Facebook. And
She blurted her
the
her strategy.
the demise of her marriage.
Oh, okay.
Was on a Friday night, maybe a little alcohol involved, and
Maybe a lot.
It was on Facebook.
Now, did you know her? Did you know
I
Susan
I
before?
I knew her personally. I was friends with her husband. I had no idea. I mean,
So
but-
you knew Susan before the divorce and before she had a couple too many and just blurted everything out
maybe,
on
and I don't
Facebook.
think, knowing Susan, she probably wasn't drinking. But anyway, she, as many people do, they turn to Facebook to air their situations.
That's a whole nother show. I mean, why do people do that? Why do people do that?
Right. So anyway, I reached out to her with a private message and, empathized with her and said, I'm here to help you. And so I arranged to meet with her the very next day. And I came over to her house, and she said, well, we've already put the house on the market. And it should be sold pretty soon. The divorce isn't quite final yet, but I don't know where I'm going to live. And so I sat down with her and kind of went through the whole mortgage process, basically did a pre-qualification right there at her kitchen table, and showed her, here's the price range that you want to be in, here's how much money you're going to need, here's what the monthly payments are going to be, and you can do it. And so as soon as I kind of went through all that with her, you could see her countenance raise because she was so devastated and beat down by the whole process, and now she knew that she had the ability to go out and buy
it's
something.
fear. It's fear. I mean,
Definitely.
you're scared, especially if you haven't been the breadwinner, especially if you don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And a lot of times you don't even know who you need to be talking to. So, that's a great story. Did you tell her to stay off Facebook?
No.
Hopefully her friends did that. Hopefully her friends did that. Okay, so one last question before we go to our Laughter is the Best Medicine video, and everybody's going to love this. And John, you haven't seen it, but you're going to love it because it has to do with divorce.
Okay.
It's really funny. I can't believe I even found this, but with regards to your home living situation, what are the circumstances surrounding when would it be a great idea to rent your house out after divorce? What are those circumstances surrounding that?
Jens, I really don't see that happening very often. It's usually not a plan.
Okay, I got you.
When
It just happens.
When I've seen it happen was back when we were going through the real estate recession and the property values were so low that people really couldn't afford to sell. They would take a huge loss and actually have to come to the table with money.
Okay, I got you.
So I've seen that happen a lot back then. That's 10 years ago, roughly. But now I think I would see that situation most likely where somebody thought they could maintain the payments,
Right.
something like that, and then they started
I gotcha.
getting a reality check and then said, okay, maybe I'll go find something else for a while
I gotcha.
and rent the house out and make a decision
Well, it
later.
makes sense, and I want to make sure that I understood that because I don't want anybody to put that as part of your plan. Okay, don't put that as part of your plan. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like that's the way you want to go. But what you do want to do is get in touch with someone like John as quickly as you can, and if you know people that are in that situation or over the next few days, weeks, months, years, whatever, you have this information and please use it. So let's go to, look, this is your website. This is Jon's website. It's texasdivorcelender.com. And if anybody is interested in talking to Jon more, you've got somebody that you want to refer to him, please do so and mention that you saw him on the Big Bold You show so he can treat you like a VIP. I know you treat all your clients like a VIP anyway, but
I do.
We definitely want to do that. So now let's jump into our laughter is the best medicine. And this is for real, okay? This is hysterical.
So this is a song that I think best exemplifies you and Tanya's relationship. And here we go. Ready?
We met when we were young, got married by 21. It was lots of fun, but now I want to get a divorce. You're always smoking weed and playing Nintendo Wii. You always miss when you pee, so now I want to get a divorce. You used to gaze into my eyes and tell me I was the best, but now you'll stare at anything with two thighs and a breast. So guess what? Now you can stare at my lawyer. 'Cause you're broke, 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 broke. And you snore, 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 snore. And when you went to Vegas, I know that you screwed this whore.
No, I didn't.
You've been cheating on me, so I packed up all your things, even your Star Wars figurines, 'cause now I wanna get a divorce. I found porn on your laptop.
Okay, so what I want to know is who is this woman that's how she came up with the idea. And I mean, I got to give kudos to her because number one, she hired people. I mean, she had somebody, come create a jingle there. She got in depth with some of the things that this guy had done to her. And of course, it goes on. And I'll put the link to that in the comment box as well, because I just literally think that is hysterical.
It is.
It's hysterical. Jon said, you got to give me that. And I will definitely give you that. And, the reason why I do the laughter is the best medicine segment, and I don't get to do it every show, but I think it's so important that every day you laugh so hard. I mean, those laughs where it's like you're crying, you're peeing your pants, it's, no sound comes out. It truly does change your body physiologically. I mean, it releases endorphins and it really does make you understand and realize that you just can't take things too seriously. You really can't. You got to laugh. So, just Jon, thank you so much for your information and your expertise and sharing your heart and some of your stories. We just thoroughly enjoyed having you.
Well, thank you, Jens. I enjoyed being here with you.
And, before we close, one of the things, leaders are readers. And if you're going to grow and you're going to develop, and remember, we are all limitless, so there will never be a day when you can't become more than you are right now. But there is a little nugget that I'm going to share with you, and I had it marked, and doggone it, basically I don't know exactly where it is, but I will tell you basically what it says, and that is in each and every one of us. So the name of the book is The Subconscious Speaks, okay? So we all know we have a subconscious mind, we have a conscious mind. Your conscious mind is in control, and your conscious mind tells your subconscious mind what to do, whether you realize it or not. This is the dynamic that's going on. Some people think your subconscious mind has more control over your conscious mind, but really all it does is what your conscious mind tells you to do. So here is a gift, okay? In each and every one of us, there is a switch that lies dormant in our brains, and that switch is the switch of success. It's the switch that will ensure 100% that you will succeed in every every aspect of your life. And all you have to do is turn that switch on. We were sent here to create, to be successful, to be happy, to make this world a better place by developing our gifts and talents. So it is within you, I promise. If you need any help switching that switch on that's dormant, if it is, please let me know. Contact me at Jons, G as in George, ENS, at jonsjohnson.com. I would love to help you. And thank you so much again, Jon, and to each and every one of you. Please subscribe to the Jons Johnson YouTube channel. Let us know what topics are important to you. And if you would like to have a guest appearance, or if you're interested in sharing a funny video or ask Jen's question, please let us know as well. So until we meet again, be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you. Bye-bye.